UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now, or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Here are the facts. The concept of extrasensory perception, or ESP, has been around in one form or another since before the dawn of recorded history. Ancient prophets, oracles, soothsayers, mystics, and religious figures have all claimed to have some sort of insight beyond the scope of linear time and space. Today we have specific terms for these alleged abilities such as pre- or retrocognition, telepathy, telekinesis, and so on. And the modern world isn't too different from the ancient in one respect. Even in the modern day, we hear anecdotes of twins sensing one another's pain, or mothers who somehow know when their child, hundreds of miles away, is dead or injured. But is there any substance to these stories? Are there any real cases of extrasensory perception? Here's where it gets crazy. Some people certainly think so, and not just self-proclaimed psychics. We've already covered the stories of academics at the Pear Lab, researchers at Sony, and even world governments, all of whom at one time or another sought to quantify and measure possible forms of non-linear perception, from telepathy to clairvoyance and remote viewing. But these were by no means the only researchers in this controversial field. Other parapsychologists like Dean Radin or Dr. Stanley Cripper have worked extensively in the areas of psi research, often fighting against widespread disregard and near-universal dismissal from mainstream science. Radin takes particular issue with what he sees as a general uneasiness about parapsychology and argues that many mainstream scientists refuse to accept the solid evidence his meta-analysis provides. And it is true that meta-analysis is not the only way to measure replication in scientific experiments, yet skeptics often don't need to resort to arguments over how to measure something, instead finding flaws in the basic constraints of remote viewing or telepathic experiments. For reasons such as small sample size, lack of reproducible results, or inadequate controls, psi research has often been relegated to the realm of pseudoscience. Yet research continues, and in 2011, Cornell University professor Daryl Bem published research that appeared to indicate a sort of forward memory. Here's how it worked. He gave students a list of words to read, and afterward they were given a surprise quiz to see how many of those words they could remember. Then, a computer randomly selected some of the listed words as practice terms, and the students were prompted to retype these terms multiple times. Oddly enough, the students seemed better at recalling these words on the earlier surprise quiz, even though they didn't study them until after the test. According to Bem's research, practicing the words after the test somehow allowed students to reach back in time to facilitate recall. Bem's research remains highly controversial, and mainstream scientists believe there is no credible evidence for psychic powers. Those who do believe, however, allege a massive conspiracy is afoot. And in a world where 60% of Americans believe in at least one psychic power, this allegation gains surprising acceptance amid the fringe. So what do you think? Are psychic powers bunk, or is there something the mainstream doesn't want you to know? It's official. You asked for it, and we finally got our shirt together. Visit stufftheydon'twantyoutoKnow.spreadshirt.com.